Hey, and we're back. Sorry about that technical difficulties.
Yes.
And so, again, we're committed and covered. And today, our guests are Rashid and Yvonne Taylor, our family. And of course, I'm Nicole Taylor.
And I am Malcolm Taylor. Excited to be here.
Yes. And so, guys, okay, so today our topic is called Do Opposites Attract?
Yeah.
Do opposites attract?
Yes.
And how much are you like your spouse?
Ooh, how much are we like our spouses?
So, you want to give us a little bit about that?
Yeah. You know, I just want to make sure, hey guys, you with us? You see us? Come
Post
on in
in
the
the
house.
chat if you
Thank
can hear
Kim.
us and you see us.
Kimberly.
Kim.
Yeah, post in the chat. Say, hey, we see you guys. We hear you guys and having a good time. I know you do now. I see me. Yes, I see us. And we're excited. Sister Taylor, she just kind of dove right in. And I appreciate that. She introduced our hosts, our co-host with us. Yeah, so guys, hey.
Oh, okay, thank you,
yes,
Dr. Woods, for letting us know. Yes.
So we're here today. And so what did you ask me, babe? Because I was engrossed.
Okay, just, you're supposed to introduce the topic, sweetie. Do opposites really attract? And how much are you like your spouse?
Okay, I'm introducing the topic, or am I answering the question, or?
Baby, you introducing the topic.
I'm introducing
the topic like you typically
what
do.
you just did, right? So
all I did was give the title. I just gave the title. Do opposites attract, or how are we soon?
All right, guys, that's the funny. I'm doing this on purpose, right? I'm pushing my wife's buttons because the question is, or the statement is, do opposites attract, right? And, I think for us, when we first see someone, there's some similarities and then there's some things that are opposite. And I think what we say to ourselves, I'm more attracted to the opposite, but in reality, we're really attracted to the similarities, right? What we do have in common. But even Kimberly Russell said, how much do you like your spouse?
How much are you like your spouse?
Oh, okay. I just
that's a whole different episode.
That's a whole other episode.
1 to 10, how much do you like your spouse? Right now, she might click 1. He ain't no 10 today, baby. Yes, and how much are you like your spouse? So thank you for that helpful introduction as well.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about some similarities, some differences, and then also hopefully help you to see that how your differences, you can balance those out to make the relationship work, the partnership thrive in your marriage. And it's not just for people in marriages. It's also can be for you, those of you that are in a relationship, maybe working towards marriage, to give you some insight, some perspective.
Yeah, and I think I'll throw out there, I mean, you could think about it. Do you ever balance out the differences? Just kind of think about it as we go through this. Do you ever get out of I'm different, or just kind of one of those things you can ruminate on.
Okay, so we're going to open up with our first question. And the first question is, what attracted you to your spouse initially? What is something different or similar to your own personality? So again, what attracted you to your spouse initially?
You want to go first?
I would say
ahead.
because we are so different. He's a very extroverted, outgoing person, and I'm completely opposite. Introverted. Just like being here, it's just it can be anxiety for me. But he thrives in situations like this. So talking in front of people, but completely different.
First, what attracted to me is she realizes that, right? Like you're like, I don't want to do this, but I know you do, so let's do it, right? So, but no, and the other thing you kind of see that she was. The first time, our first date was like a Super Bowl party. So she did pretty much that the entire time. Every time that we spoke, she would do this or hold my hand or touch my shoulder or something like that. But she wasn't. And by that time, I was in the middle of my college age, and sometimes you go on dates and it's like a competition.
Yeah,
like who gets to talk first and who gets to give the interview and who gets to so I found a lot of young people that I were dating, young ladies I was dating at that time, were kind of fighting for competition. And I didn't want that. Like I'm like, if this is the first date, what is our relationship going to be like? So for her to not have to have the spotlight, for her to not feel like she had to compete with me, even though I was outgoing, that was refreshing for me. That she was and she was comforting and warm all at the same time.
Oh, that's
yes,
nice.
Yes. Well, I would have to say for me with Malcolm, when I met Malcolm, I really observed him first. And I loved his mannerisms. I loved his manly mannerisms, but also how, you know, he owned a hair salon and there were a lot of women that would come in and out, but I noticed that he was.
That didn't sound right.
I was wondering where this was going for a second. I noticed there was a lot of women.
It was a female hair salon and barbershop, right?
Yes,
So I'm just saying I would observe him and I noticed that, you know, he didn't lust over the women that were coming in and out. You know, he was very respectful. He was a gentleman, and he had a sense of humor that I really
she don't
saw.
say nothing.
So those were his mannerisms. His character was what attracted me to him.
So he wasn't like player pimp of the shop.
Even when he didn't know I was watching, you know, so that spoke volumes to me.
Good. I know you were watching. Yeah, you know, I would just to be honest. I mean, the first attraction to you is she was fine. You know, what I mean, yeah, you know how that is, and then to continue to pay attention not only to the fine, but then to what's behind the, you know, the nice shape, the nice face, the beautiful face, all of that, long hair. And she was a solid woman, you know. And I didn't say was like still not, but she was a solid woman when I met her. And it was like, oh man, you know, she really like has it together, you know. And I even joke with her now. I said, I didn't think that you didn't think that you could do anything. I felt like when I met Nicole's like, oh, I can do whatever. Okay. She was like, you know, that's what it seemed like, you know, never nervous, never anything like that. But that's what attracted me.
And I would have to say what's different is Malcolm is a homebody person. I am a social butterfly. So that's the difference. You know, I know when we met Vaughn, I used to be like, man, does she ever talk?
I know.
I used to be like, oh my goodness, I couldn't.
I was the observer.
And this was last week, right?
So this is what we get. Vaughn is quiet every time we get this. Sometimes there's some spurts.
You get 2 words out of her
That's right.
for the
maybe three.
whole 6 hours you together. The 2 words is hi. Then the second one is bye.
And of course, being around Rashid, he's opposite. And so, and many people may not know that Malcolm is really an introvert, but he's definitely a homebody, and I am the opposite. So those are a difference, you know. So yeah. So do you all believe that opposites attract? Why or why not?
So I think introverts are kind of more prone to be drawn to extroverts, at least superficially. Like Malcolm said, I think there's this thing that we kind of realize that, you may be more outgoing, but at the heart of hearts, we're similar. But I think there is, and Henry Wright says it this way, you kind of need somebody that, if you're an extrovert, you kind of need somebody that's going to slow you down, that kind of takes care of business, that kind of sees things that you may not look at because you're all systems go all the time, right? And you go into a room, you're like, oh, okay, I need to go talk to everybody, right? And as Yvonne is more prone to, she kind of just lays back, she lets the evening come to her, and she's perfectly fine, not talking at all. And she'll have a good time. You know, she'll be like, that was a good time. I'm like, baby, you talked to 3 people.
But she had a good time.
She had a good time.
Right.
Right.
100 people there.
And so I think that's I think that at the forefront there is that extrovert introvert connection. And I think for extroverts, you want, like Malcolm said about he thought that there was nothing that you couldn't do. And I think for extroverts, we want somebody that loves Superman or Superwoman, but also loves Clark Kent, because there's a time when you got to take the cape off, right? There's a time when you got to be kind of vulnerable. And as extroverts, you feel like you kind of interact with the world, and you got to be impenetrable, but you want that person that when you come home to, they are perfectly fine with Clark Kent glasses and pajama pants on for 3 days. Or, you don't need whatever, right?
And you know, for our people who are out there listening, you know, some people have kind of, you know, put what they thought about their spouses as well in the chat, and you can throw it in there or even think about it. But even Pastor Kurt, you know, he said for his Superwoman, Kanique, he said she was her tenacity and adventurous spirit relentless drive, and was so willing to do things and figure
New
them
things
out.
and figure them out.
New
Right.
things and figure them out. So that's what he put in about his boo, and that's awesome. So you
And
guys
then he
can,
also says he feels that opposites, he's not sure that opposites attract as much as he think God balances our partners.
okay.
I believe that opposites attract. Sometimes I think in the beginning when you're dating in that dating phase, that you're together all the time.
Okay.
You seem like you're one accord. You have these similarities, but then when you take the relationship a step further and you get married, and then you start seeing like, oh, okay, we are opposite in a lot of ways. And at the beginning, sometimes it can feel like you just don't get me or you don't understand me. But those opposites really balance
Is that what
each
you're
other.
saying about me?
But those opposites really, I believe opposites can, and we're going to talk about that, really can balance each other.
Sister Clark said, "Can we get a series on this?"
But just going back to what Pastor Kirk said, about it, that God balances us. I do believe that once we figure what those differences are, and we acknowledge those differences, and then ask God, hey, help me to work with what's different, right? That at first we liked, and then later on you realize, hey,
yeah. And and then we got to keep it real, like what Rashid said about his wife, and what Vaughn said about Rashid. Like she's quiet, right? And we're human. And I mean, I can just safely assume sometimes you don't want quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then sometimes with Vaughn, I don't want the extrovert,
Talking.
and that's why you say opposites attract. I would say opposites are attractive, right?
Okay.
So, and just like anything that's attractive to us, sometimes it's not,
Right. Right. Right.
So I appreciate some things about you that are different, but if I see it, too long, it's not so attractive, But opposites do pull us in different ways.
Yeah.
But then do we, like, over time, do we want to change those things that are opposite from us?
I think a lot of times we'll come into a relationship.
Yeah.
And some of us may have already experienced this, but you come into a relationship, you're like, I like the way they take charge. And then you kind of realize, no, this person has a controlling personality. You know what I mean?
It seems one way, but then it gets
some,
right.
and so it deteriorates really fast, because you be like, oh, I can't have this person manage every area of my life for their comfortability, right? So I think that opposites being attractive can eventually devolve into chaos if you don't get that balance that Kurt was talking about.
Yeah.
And if God is not the center,
That's right.
that kind of smooths all of those rough edges out.
That is so
That's
true.
right.
That is so true.
Okay, so when did you realize that you and your spouse were either quite different or surprisingly similar? When did you first realize it?
I would say from the very beginning.
Okay.
From day one,
Yeah.
I realized that we were very different.
Very different.
Very different.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, there were things.
She just didn't say it.
Yeah.
She don't talk.
I don't talk.
And she didn't tell me until today. I'm getting here just now finding out. No, go ahead.
There were things. There are things that we have in common. Like as far as our love language, we're both physical touch people, and so that plays a big role in our relationship and the communication piece between the two of us. But
early on. Yeah. No, I would agree. I'm teasing you, but I would agree.
Yeah, he just want to get a rise.
I know.
Yeah, because it's so rare that I get to. But I think one way we used to put it is she's still waters, I'm a babbling brook. But at the end of the day, we're both still bodies of water,
right?
Meant to nourish, meant to move forward, and she just takes it a lot slower than I do. And so because I am a babbling brook, everything should be talked about.
Yeah.
And when I'm ready to talk about it, so if we at Publix and we're like, no, you know what, I didn't like what you said at work, and we just right around the corner. We just right around the corner from the job. So you know what I mean? Like this, I feel like everything should be discussed. And she's like, now is not the time.
Yeah.
All of these people are here and we just came in to get ice cream or whatever. You know what I mean? So
bring you, reel you back in.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
I like what,
okay, I was
going
to
say what Dr. Wood says. He says, while differences can complement each other, shared core values, goals, and communication styles tend to become crucial for relationship satisfaction. And yes, I will agree with what you're saying on that. To me, as long as we're similar with those core values, you know, our and even when I wouldn't say our goals for our family, our goals for our marriage, or how we used to say with our mission statement for our family. Being on one accord with our family and our marriage, and anything, if we get distracted and we need to come back and have a conversation. But if it's something that I want to do and it's not going to affect us, and I'm just speaking in terms of a goal, since you mentioned a goal, Dr. Woods, you know, that sometimes our goals can be opposite of what, but if it's a personal goal that's not going to affect the family, then I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
And then Dr. Nicole, she said that sometimes we're attracted to people who that bring out certain qualities that we're lacking for our
and I do believe that too, Dr. Nicole, that there's certain qualities that we're lacking that our spouse, and I think that goes back to which we were going to talk about, but it's up here coming up now, weaknesses, strengths, and weaknesses.
Well, I was going to tie that into what Rose said, because Rose was like, I couldn't believe that I'm an introvert and you're
an extrovert.
She thought it was the other way around, but you see, we balance those qualities in public, right? In public, I do come off as an extrovert.
Yes.
But in private, I'm like exhausted. I'm like, I'll just chill. So that quality is in Nicole. Yeah.
So then let's talk about, we've kind of talked about what are the biggest differences between you and your spouse. And we definitely know introvert and extrovert with you guys. And we've said that with Malcolm and I, but is there anything else that, you know, a big difference between you guys, and how does it play like in your relationship?
I think once we get past introvert and extrovert, we are like the second layer of us is very similar. Our primary love language is exactly the same. Our secondary love language is exactly the same.
True.
Her third love language is my fourth love language.
So
those at our way we frame and filter love, those are very similar. But at the same time, when you get into temperaments, I'm sanguine, which makes me very outgoing, but my secondary is phlegmatic. She's primarily phlegmatic. You know what I mean? So I want to visualize and she wants to harmonize. And so secondarily, I want to harmonize too. And growing up, I'm a middle child, so I'm not the oldest, I'm not the youngest, so I kind of got to go along to get along. So there is that in there. And so those things I think kind of bring us together. Like even when we argue, we still want to be booed up. You know what I mean? Like even when we mad, like I still am like, girl, get over here, because it feels weird sitting in this chair by ourselves. And so like that, I think those are the kind of things that, and I think the second part of the question is how do we navigate that? Is we keep the main thing the main thing. We keep our need for quality time as primary, our need for physical touch as primary, our need for our kids to see that you can disagree without being violently disagreeable. You know what I mean? So,
So, babe, what would you say our biggest difference is?
Our biggest difference?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah,
what are the biggest difference between you and your spouse?
This right here.
I had to repeat it. I know.
No. I'm just saying. I wasn't saying it like it was more rhetorical than anything. Y'all really are getting to know these Taylors, right? You know, these two,
I'm
right?
like, is he repeating the question?
I know. Well, one of our biggest differences. I don't think, man, you know, in terms of being opposite, there's a lot of things about us that are opposite. You're the oldest, I'm the youngest, right? Male-dominated home, female-dominated home for you. And there's so many things that were different about us that brought us together. And then, like, what would you say that's why for me, I couldn't say this is our biggest difference. For me, I know you can say something
outside of us being extrovert and introvert.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest difference is, to me, all the many differences that we have that kind of just brought us together. And actually, even with some of those differences, they've made us closer, right? Because, you know, with the differences of family, the differences of, you know, our backgrounds, it actually brought us closer in terms of support. And then, okay, I don't understand, you help me understand, or, you know, we talk each other through it. What about you?
That's good.
Well, I mean, basically what you said. I mean, we can always talk about some small things like, you know, if you roll the toothpaste up or if you press it in from the middle or leaving the dresser drawers open, things like that. But to me, those are, you can look at those as opposites, but you know, those are just characteristics, habits, you know, habits of a person that sometimes I believe people can look at those as opposites and make them more than what they are. That can damage a marriage. But you know, but I think that's something couples go through early on in their marriage, and then once you realize that person is not going to change, they're not going to close the cabinets. You know, I'm gonna still press the toothpaste in the middle. You just eventually let those things go because you like that's really no value in arguing and disagreeing about that. So at the end of the day, I believe we can be different in some behavioral characteristic things, but overall I believe that our values and our goals for our family, we're on the same page. And I'm just saying all of that because I can remember when we first got married, I had to learn to distinguish those things, learn to distinguish those things, the difference, and appreciate those things. But now I will say, if you're dating in the dating phase, if it's major things like a person not loving Christ and you're dating them,
pretty big.
That's pretty big. You know, it's pretty big.
That's not a good opposite.
Right.
I know we're laughing. That's
no.
And then, you know, so some
I'm
of those.
an atheist. I love you, boo. I love Jesus. Opposites attract.
No, you don't want to try to balance that one out.
Right. So just saying that, you know, those are some different things. And so, but I believe because we've been married going on 27 years, we are more alike than what we thought, you know? So, yes.
I think you touched on something that I think, and they're kind of having a similar conversation in the chat. It's like there's this temperament that you have that you are born with.
Right.
But there's a personality you develop because of the way, like Malcolm is older than you, but he's the youngest in his family. You're the oldest in your family. So there's a way that you started to process the world early on that shaped your personality, right?
Yes.
And then your character is something you've developed with him over the last 26, 27 years.
Yes.
Right. And so that person is not the person that walked into that shop that was scoping him out is not the person that it sits before us now. And that's what ultimately God is trying to do is develop that character that you're supposed to take into heaven. So you could only get that through your relationship with Malcolm, through the byproducts of the children that you create, because your children are going to do things that burnish that character too. So I think a lot of times we do focus on those habits, characteristics, traits that my mama said the mustard go in the cabinet. My mama said the mustard go in the refrigerator. And we have these fights, but they're not really opposites. As somebody said, those are habits. And those are tendencies that we picked up, and they seem wrong because they were drilled into us over a lifetime when they really don't matter at all.
They don't. I mean, you know, like Nicole and I, we didn't cohabitate before we got married. So, and then of course she came from, I know. and we did something outside the norm, right? And then of course she came from a female dominated home. So, you know, there was some things that she just couldn't understand. Like, you know, men leave hair in the shower, you know, and that just like, when we first got married, that was like a deal breaker for her. She was like, what?
I gotta clean it when I get in and clean it when I get out.
And then we leave hair on the sink. She's like, what? I'm like, y'all shed hair too. You know, it just ain't the same.
It ain't the same.
And I didn't make the bed. I always felt like you need to air that thing out all day.
Let it breathe.
And then it's like, I'm coming back to it.
And who else is coming? So
at least when you're single, you know, I'm like, hey, I leave the sheets where they were because I'm coming right back to it.
But what about, the opposite traits that we have? How has our opposite traits helped our spouse? You know, I think about so when Malcolm and I are planning, if we've been asked to present at a couple's event or present, you know, and we have two different two different.
Talk about
so
it.
I'll say,
talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll say, well, Malcolm, let's go ahead and sit down and let's put this together, because I like to do things in advance, to be prepared. So I go, Malcolm, be like, I'll be ready by the end of the week. Okay, the end of the week is close to the event, right? So that would drive me crazy. It would drive me crazy, because my learning style is to go ahead and work on something, not procrastinate, and to get it done.
Hold on, you're making people think I'm a procrastinator. Go ahead, though. Finish it.
What they say, hit dog.
Hit dog holler.
This girl,
But I didn't say that.
she did me like that in Sabbath school this morning too.
No. So I'm just saying. So then, so what we had to do was we had to talk about that. Like, okay, what I needed for me, and then how he likes to.
All right, so
to do
let me add a little more of my light on that. Right? You just gave all your light. Right? So my thing is, I already have it in my head, right? And I like to just go off script and not really be scripted. But Nicole is a scripted person. And the light bulb came on for me. It was years ago. We were going to do an event, and she kept like, we need. I'm like, I got it. Well, we don't need anything. I got it. Just follow it. And I realized she needed a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And so I said, we were actually out eating, and I said, okay, pull out a piece of paper. I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
And when I gave her the 1, 2, 3, it was
Dr.
like she was like this, like, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I do that now. Right.
And for me, it's not to say I'm being scripted, but I like to just, to me, when you go over things, that gives you an idea in your head of how, just for the flow of it, of it. But that is a characteristic that I wish I could have of Malcolm's, to just be like, okay, now I'm gonna just go with the flow. It is what it is. If it happens this way, but that is not my characteristic. But I'm learning to relax more. But I like to. I'm detail oriented.
So you basically saying I like to fly with no parachute.
Well, you said it. Did he not say that? Did he not say that? I mean, come
Vaughn,
on,
what
Taylor.
you got to say?
Listen, it is the same way for us. I don't know if it's just a Taylor thing, the Taylor
may be.
men, or what. But I am.
So go ahead, girl.
preach
I
it.
am an
Preach it.
organization type of person. I need to
Yeah.
have it in order. I need to have it laid out, so I know what I'm doing.
That's
That's
funny.
right.
Where he's the same, he's like Malcolm.
Yeah.
He's like, I got it right here.
Yeah.
I don't need to rehearse anything. I don't need to practice for anything.
Yeah.
We just go with the flow.
There's a certain charge, and that's back to maybe that may be my extrovertedness, but there's a certain charge that you get by just okay, I know the question is coming, but what am I feeling in the moment that I may want to share, right? And so there's a certain part of that, but also we grew up where you were kind of like forced on the spot to have a talent show.
Exactly.
And you got finished with Christmas dinner.
No prep.
And you had to entertain the entire family, and everybody had to do something. So there may be some of that in there too. Like in our history, you didn't always get a chance to prepare. So knowing the questions a week in advance, you were like, oh, I definitely got this, right?
Yeah.
So
But see, it's really not about knowing the questions, because I feel like if I have to be Johnny on the spot, I will. But when you're planning something, just having the details and the flow of it, that's my learning style.
Yeah.
Even in leadership roles,
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, I need to have details, so I would like my staff to have details to know, so we all can be on one accord about things. And so, just knowing that, because even like, working on my PhD, I didn't want to, but I would make myself.
Yeah.
And I know when I finished and he was towards the end, he would be watching TV, and I'll say, Malcolm, baby, you need to go ahead and cut that off and work on your PhD. I am. Then I said again, but I think this is me being the oldest.
Yeah. Yes.
Babe, go and work on your PhD. And then he would eventually cut the TV off and go do it. And he said he appreciated that,
I didn't feel like it.
Yes.
But there was some things like
Yes, Sister Ingrid.
Kurt said that you were stepping on toes, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
And Doc Wood, he said, in my home, some ways we are different. And here's number 1, our problem solving process. 2, big picture versus detail oriented.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
like that. And Sister Ingrid said, "Tight Taylor." She's
There
talking,
you go. But she also said, men fix things, women plan things. And that's true.
That is true.
Right. But I believe when those two personality intercept, you get something beautiful.
You do.
Right?
You do.
Get something beautiful.
You do.
Is it a bomb or a rainbow? I mean, when you say sometimes when they intersect, that could be
explosive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, depending on what it is. Depending on what it is.
Yeah.
And Celia said, I think it's a man thing. My husband is the same. You know,
could be.
But again, it goes back to once you recognize the differences that you have between each other, and how are we going to mesh those differences and similarities.
Yeah. And you know, we've been talking about this for a good 20 minutes now, and I had asked or even posed at the beginning, do those differences ever change? And you know, we've been together for a little while, and you know what, I don't think the differences necessarily change. I do think they morph over time. You know, you know, like what was so important was not as important. It's not in your 40s. You know,
Right.
what was in your 20s, and so on and so forth. Like we were watching these video excerpts of older people who've been married for 50 plus years. And one lady, she was like, me and my husband, we don't argue that much because we know like life is not promised, right? We know we're closer to our end than our beginning.
Yes.
So, you know, your priorities and those opposites that aren't so attractive anymore, they change.
Yeah.
That's
You
true.
know, and you realize, and especially if unfortunately, you know, sickness or something happens early on in your marriage or the relationship that you're in, that really sobers you.
Yeah.
And I like what Dr. Woods also said too. He says that sometimes if we are not careful and understand, we think that the detailed person is being too picky and the big picture person is not interested. You hit that on the nail,
Yeah,
Dr. Woods.
100%.
You hit that perfectly on the nail.
Yeah.
I think that we see that a lot. I am a huge big picture person. Like, so I want to make sure that I cast it as far as I can, and I see as broadly as I can. But I don't see finite things. Even like when we take chores and we clean up the house, like I'll do the room and then she'll do the room.
You mean like go back?
Yeah, like I got the clothes up, but she got the little things that you know, like this hair tie. You know, so I think it can come off as I am disinterested or I am half-heartedly doing things, but in reality, it's the way that you see things. Even in the way we relate to our kids, they moved out for a while, and it was like for her, it was I needed to talk to them 2 or 3 times a week. She needed to talk to them every day. And walk them through what their experiences was, even though they weren't in the house.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because being opposite and similar with parenting styles, you know, how that can be in a marriage as well. You know, Malcolm is a talker. You know, he's a talker. I am
at home or outside the house?
with the kids.
Oh yeah. Oh,
parenting
got it. With the kids.
Yes.
Thank you, babe.
It's gonna be an interesting ride home.
You should have been in the truck with us the way home after church.
But anyway,
boy, that was a knock. I didn't know I didn't even know we were gonna make it to committed and covered.
Did you see what Sister
said,
Ingrid put? Sister Ingrid
this
said,
woman gonna call the police.
Sister Ingrid said, "Are you listening to me, child? Who are you talking about, Sister Ingrid? Please put that in the chat because I'm
I thought
confused.
she was gonna call the police, man. I'm like, look, this is after we ministered.
That was yesterday for us, and then it was communion this morning.
Hey, you sipping on the juice like she need a whole bottle. And she's looking like I need to drown him.
Okay,
But to give her all the crackers.
All of them. All of them. Matter of fact, fill the pool up.
that's right.
Fill the pool up. We got to fill that baptismal pool up because
We're gonna need it. We're gonna need it.
and hold him down.
But you know, when we're talking back to parenting styles,
Yes.
opposites,
Your
how
original
we,
question,
I
yes.
thank you. Malcolm is a talker. He's a you know, he talks with the kids. I talk with the kids, but I am more of the disciplinarian. But at the end of the day, throughout our marriage, we've learned to balance each other. You know, because definitely how you were raised,
Plays a big part.
plays a big part in how you discipline. And there are times when I felt like I've said something to our kids, and then I'll go to him and I said, "Did you hear what I just said?" He was like, and I said, I don't think that was nice or right. And he was like, "What do you think?" And I'll say no, and then I'll say, "Thank you for clarifying that." because if I sensed it, then I know it. So then I would go and apologize. But being on one accord, even though you may have been raised differently, plays a major part too in how you're parenting, being opposite.
Yeah. I'm driving home, Sister Clark. Yeah.
Like Kurt says, marriage is an interesting experience. We have to laugh at these things.
Yo,
Yes, we
100%. Or you'll go crazy.
Yeah, you will. You bring something else out of it, you know?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
But we can also, those opposite and similarities can play a major part even in parenting with our children.
Yeah.
And I think for us, there was kind of a shift middle school age. Like I was my son is our oldest, and our daughter is right after him. And I was kind of like a real master disciplinarian, because I'm like, the world ain't gonna treat you soft. The world ain't gonna do this and this. And so then by the time he made it to about 5th or 6th grade, I kind of relaxed on both of them, really. And she kind of took over because she was worried about the things that happened in middle school. The world is coming at you fast. So she was, she was that one that walked through the sweeps through the room that looking for stuff accidentally while cleaning up. That was her, right? And so it became kind of a shift. But I think it was great because at the same time that I was taskmaster, she was really loving and nurturing. And when she was doing her sweeps and patrols, I was real understanding about that. Okay, I understand that you need this space, you need this distance from your parents, but understand that your mother's just doing that because she loves you, and the person that she wants you to be is who she's trying to drive you toward every day. So I think that it came at the right time.
You ain't throwing under the bus.
Because there is a story that I would love to tell, but I will not. Somebody got choked.
But we gonna say something. What were you gonna say?
Nothing. Let it go.
But as parents, even with the different personalities, how we are alike and similar, you balance each other.
Yes.
I mean, there are times when Malcolm may have, was about to discipline the kids, and I say, hey, let's think about this. Did you think about this, or we didn't include this? And then the roles switch. When I'm hot tempered about something, he'd be like, okay, babe, let's not treat the kids like they somebody from the streets. We have to balance each other with our different personalities. Right.
Yeah, we do. What's the next question? I love these questions.
Yeah, it's a good conversation.
Next time I'll pay attention to the question.
Okay, so if you could. Okay, it says from a psychological perspective, do you think couples who are opposite have more challenges, or is there an inherent benefit to their differences?
You want to take that first?
Go ahead. I'll pick
Do
it
you
back.
think couples who are opposite on a psychological perspective have more challenges, or is there an inherent benefit to their differences?
So I think if we really look at it psychologically, like there's this chart in my head that I see that there's a choleric and a phlegmatic. That person who's like really take charge and really domineering, that person may crush the spirit of a phlegmatic individual. So I think if you're looking at somebody, and we kind of touched on this earlier, like the take charge person may be a take control person. And so I think we have to kind of look at it with that real lens of which one is this person, and can they grow past that? Is there a need for this person to micromanage even my life? You know what I mean? And that kind of person doesn't really grow out of that without the help of the Lord. So without that kind of Holy Spirit driven direction, I think we all kind of lean to our bad side, right?
Ooh,
like we don't become better versions of ourselves on our own, or self-help books would cease to exist. Right?
Definitely.
So yeah, I think opposite based couples do have more challenges than those who have maybe a similar temperament, similar love language, similar personality.
But through it all, God.
That's right.
Because
Because he said all things work together for the good of them who love the Lord.
Yes,
so even that thing can work together if we let him work it out.
Sure enough.
And
And you right, Sister Clark, no wrinkles.
No, but Sister Clark 27 years, we thank God. But we've been through to some things, and God keeps us. So yes,
and that's the thing. Like the opposites, those things that you see. Like if we look at it like a team, right? Everybody can't be the quarterback.
That's right.
Everybody can't be the running back. There are some people on the team that you really don't see. Like most people who don't know sports, especially if we use football, you don't know who's on special teams.
That's right.
You know, it's rare that you know who the players are on special teams.
That's right.
But they're special for a reason. You need special teams, right? So there's some things we do like that I'm willing to take the back seat on at times, and then there's some things that Nicole's willing to take the back seat on that takes her outside of her natural capabilities of being an extrovert. And so when she falls into that opposite arena, over the years we've been able to develop ourselves to be able to be okay in the opposite arena. So like when there's an event, all right, I give it. When there's an event, Nicole will come to me and say, hey, honey, you know, there's something happening this weekend. Do you want to go? Now, 20 plus years together, I know she wants to go, right? So then I take the back seat. I'll go ahead. Okay, we'll go. And sometimes, not all the time, majority of the time that I'm there, I'm very uncomfortable. I'm ready to go, you know. But I know she's having the ball of her life. So I take the back seat. And I allow my opposite to be attracted to, hey, she wants to be out. She wants to do these things. Then on the way home, she just... Because I learned not to complain, because I used to complain all the way home.
But then, and then to piggyback off of that, Malcolm being a homebody introvert, I've learned to be like, okay, we're gonna be home. I'm gonna be. I mean, I'm good with that too. But
sometimes I want to go.
And then sometimes he'll say, "I know we've been home for about 3 months. We miss you." You know, I'm just saying, you know, it's been
3 months.
All right, 11 weeks.
Okay,
she done put 90 days on.
I'm sorry, exaggerating that, but I'm sorry.
That's how you feel. That's how you feel, baby.
So, but then I give him that time for us
Church
to just be
count?
home and home and chilling
We did Sabbath
together.
school, girl.
All those people at church.
But yeah, so but we have to, yes. But I like also what Pastor Kurt has also said. He just also said that complimenting one another and seeking to outserve one another, it's a school you'll never graduate from. And honestly, you never want to. I'm still a student and loving it. Oh yes, definitely. I did a devotion on it was serving your spouse. If both of you are just trying to outserve each other instead of worrying about being served, then that can definitely help your marriage. Definitely. And then I like also what Kimberly Russell says. She also says that we have to be lifelong learners of our partners, and we need to learn their love language, which we've talked about, and we need to also learn how to resolve conflict and fight fair and recognize we are on the same team. Well said, Sister Kimberly.
Fight fair. I think that's something I think we kind of overlook, right? Because there's love languages but there's also apology languages, right? And so there's a way. That's another topic. Yeah, there's a way that I'm going to when we fall out. There's a way that I'm going to need for us to make up. There's a way that I'm going to need for us to touch and agree, right? And so even in that dance of trying to understand each other, we understand that Malcolm gets decharged. I don't even know if that's a word. He gets his battery goes lower in these social situations. So constantly getting what you want reduces Malcolm's energy to face the world. But constantly denying you of that recharge removes your energy. So it's wonderfully said that if we each seek to kind of make sure that each one is getting generated, each one is getting powered up. But if I'm apologizing, if I'm making up on the times that I do forget, then we can never be completely at odds, right?
That's right.
Even though we may be opposite, we don't have to be at odds.
Right. And I like what Dr. Woods also said. He said, what if God designed us to be in relationship to help us grow in our weak areas and polish us to be more like him? The problem is that sometimes I take things too personally. And I do agree with that because I've always felt like there's two things that God designed to keep us on our knees and to keep us from being selfish is in marriage, is marriage and children. You know, I believe that he designed those two to help us to learn to be obedient and to learn how to be selfless and with loving each other.
And you're talking about people relationships, right? And because we are some finicky, sometimey. I mean, you know, we can't even trust ourselves. You know, the Bible says that the human heart is wicked above all things, and desperately is desperately wicked. So, and then who can know it?
That's right.
So, and then we're married, right? And we're supposed to have fidelity. We're supposed to have patience. You know, love. I mean, whew,
That's right.
really.
And Marlene says, I think marriage teaches us to be Christian. All the principles that Christ teaches are necessary to be front and center during our marriages. And yes, that is so true.
That is so
Marlene.
true.
So thank
Preferably,
you
it's
for that.
supposed to lead you to salvation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's ask the fun question. You got the fun question. If you could swap,
Okay, if you could swap one personality trait with your spouse, what would it be and why?
You know what?
Go ahead.
I think maybe, and I wouldn't say swap forever. Maybe one day.
one day.
One day.
In life, just one day, one 24-hour period. Okay,
yes.
go ahead. What is that?
Being able to say anything.
Wow.
You know, I don't have that ability. I sit and I think about, think about again before I. But for you, because of the outgoingness, extrovertedness, it's just like, boom, you know, right there.
You just get
Just
to
right-
saying
yeah,
anything to
yeah,
everybody.
But
I
blame-
gotta calculate it all.
what you
Blame,
had.
blame my mother. Yes.
Yes.
blame my mother. Yeah.
You need to hit her with like that liar. You know the movie Liar. Yeah. She can't tell. She got to tell the truth. Like,
24
"Mom,
hours.
how you
She
feeling?
got-
I
yeah.
don't like none of y'all. I hate everybody.
Yes. And I would just want to watch her at work. I would just sprinkle that on there and watch her at work. Yeah.
Okay,
No.
that's a good one.
I think for me is there's the planning, the organizing, the structured. Like Yvonne is not only organized and structured, but she's persevering. Like she does a lot of the graphics for the things that I do, and so I'll really be like, baby, I need you to finish that so that we can snuggle.
Yeah.
Right? Like
My
she-
work.
Yeah. She's doing my work, but I'm like, I need you to finish that so we can snuggle. But once I ask her to do it, she's not going to do it until
That's right.
she,
That's right.
and
That's
being
right.
detail oriented,
That's right.
she's
Yeah.
not going to finish because her name is on that.
That's
Even
right.
if nobody knows,
Yeah.
specialty
Yeah.
teams,
Yeah.
even if nobody knows that she did it,
Yeah.
she knows that she did it.
Yeah.
And so that thumbnail for the YouTube devotion or the whatever, she's going to make sure that it's perfect.
Wow.
And so
That's what we do.
I would love, exactly.
Yeah.
I would not have made it through grad school twice without her, and so I would love to have that detail orientedness.
I would say Malcolm has a way with words.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to finesse his words, and when I say that, meaning let's just say if someone had an issue with him or something, he knows how to word it and put it in a nicer way. Me, I don't have time to think. I don't have time to think about that. You know, I just, for me, you're gonna get what's in my head. It's gonna come out, and it doesn't mean that I'm trying to be mean. I'm just more direct with my words, and sometimes I'll say, okay, I just didn't have time to finesse it. And so sometimes before I respond to certain messages or things, I'll say, hey, babe, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And he will say, okay, let's do it this way. I said, thank you, because I knew you were going to help me with that. Even one of my ex-colleagues, when I used to respond in an email to people at work, she would say, no, Nick, this sounds much better, you know? And I said, thank you for that wisdom, because for me, it just comes, but it's not intentionally. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's just direct, just direct. So if I could take that and be able to finesse it real quick like Malcolm does, I would like that personality.
I guess for me,
And the laid backness.
I'm still laughing about that. I guess for me, it would be the ability to. I guess I could be a little bit critical, right? And like, here's what Nicole would do. Like, if we're in a setting, she would just we're gonna just have fun, right? Like, I used to joke her. I'm like, "Are you going to the mall with those girls, you know, you know, like y'all really friends.
Yeah.
Nicole's like, oh, we're going to the mall because I want to go to the mall, you know, and I'm gonna have a good time when I go to the mall.
Yeah.
Like for me, I would be like just a downer the whole time, you know, like I'm with these guys that I don't really care for. But she has the ability to walk into a room.
Yeah.
She has the ability to make the best of it and have a real good time.
Yeah.
Even when we started in couples ministry and family ministry, you know, we even agree with each other. And it was really her energy. If it's one person, we're going to have a real good time. If it's 100 people, we'll have an awesome time. But we're going to make that one person who comes to our ministry event feel like they're 10 people. You know how when you walk into a room and your event doesn't flower like you want it to flower, you can see the presenters looking like this, like, well, we can start late, we can quit, you know. But if we set it for an hour, Nicole would be like, we're going to give this one person a whole hour of a good time.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
yeah, I like that.
That's fantastic.
So, guys, in preparing to land this plane,
All right.
what advice would you give to a couple who is struggling with differences in their relationship?
That's big.
Just what advice would you give?
So I don't really prepare answers.
Yes.
And I had one prepared for this one. But this morning we had communion as I spoke about earlier. And I thought about touching and agreeing, right? Because somebody, we pray over the couples, and somebody had mentioned that, and so it took me down a rabbit hole. But I think we need to touch, we need to stay connected at the heart of it. The other things are petals on the flower, so to speak, that can come and go. But at the heart, we need to stay connected, right? And so we stay in touch. But we also agree. We agree that Christ is the center of our relationship, that our relationship is a reflection of what he does in our life. So even though we may be opposites, we have to work through that opposition to overcome whatever is against us, right? And so finally, I think the last thing is touch and agree, but also demonstrate the relationship that you want to have. So we can't be like, well, when we get there,
that's true,
this is what we'll do. No, we're constantly trying to move toward that, and we show that to our children, even though they are adults. We try to show that to our children. So that's what I would say.
I would say kind of along the same thing, but you find a way to find that balance so that you don't allow the differences to break you.
That's right.
You know? And you have to allow God to lead you to that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. Well, I'll say the same as Rashid said and Yvonne, especially you touching on the connection. You know, when you have differences, you know, because sometimes when you're not, you know, you letting life lead you sometimes separate ways. You get too busy. You're not being intentional with your quality time and showing the love with each other, because that can cause some division, you know. And recently we just started back. We don't really say that we have date nights because we're always together, always eating somewhere. But we started back on Thursdays in our room playing games and having snacks and listening to music and just some plain fun, right? And that has really warmed my heart because we used to do that and just that quality time without the cell phones and things like that. But being intentional about our time, spending that quality time together, and definitely too, you know, when you start feeling like you're at odds, that tells me, okay, Nicole, you got to get in the Word even more. Get in the Word even more so that we can stay connected and not allow those differences that sometimes that can be an irritation to you become bigger.
Can I ask what made y'all kind of go back to the gang time? Was it just this is what's missing, or we're missing this, or was it just an answer to something else?
Well, we used to do that a lot, and then it just, you know, fell off. And I had been thinking about it, and it really was on my heart because I love it. I love it. So I said, I'm not going to complain and say, Malcolm, we don't do this no more. And I just said, you just do it. So I started back. I was like, hey, meet you upstairs, such and such. Let's get ready to play some cards or Scrabble, and bring. I got some snacks. And he'll say, you want to watch TV? Nope, cut the TV off. And so that's just what we do.
That's
and
good.
the kids joined us this past Thursday.
Okay.
So that made it even more fun too.
Yeah,
so,
that made
but
it fun.
yeah.
You know, and I guess I'll add to it. You know, like with a magnet. You know, a magnet has poles, and one side of the pole will bring a magnet together, and you almost can't pull it apart. But if you flip it around, they'll push each other away, right? And I think what we tend to do is, especially depending on where you are in your marriage, you look at the opposites and you allow those things that you don't like to push you away from your spouse.
Yes.
And then you begin to spiral into some things that you should not do, or actions that you may begin to do that will push you even further away. But I think what we really, really need to do is say, you know what, like what my wife did for us, Nicole, she said, we need to start doing these game nights again, right? And she asked me more than once. I mean, this was this week. You know, I wanted to watch TV while we played our game. She didn't. But because I listened to her need, you know, I left the TV off, you know, and I didn't complain about it. And we had a good time, right? So it's like, guys, that's what starts to bring you back together, though, that magnetic pole that says, you know what, I don't like it that she does this, or I don't like it that he does that, but we're doing this together. And it brings you back together, closer and closer. And then there's some things that begin to drop off that you can manage and say, you know what? I know Nicole wants to play games without watching TV. I'm good with that. I'm good with not, you know what? We got DVR. I'll put that game on record, or I'll put that show on record, or it's already dropped into Netflix or something. I don't have to watch it now. You know, it's there forever. Right?
That's good. Yeah.
But we're not here forever. So then the more we begin to do that, you see your magnetic pole begin to, and then when it snaps together, I mean, it's some good stuff going on then, right?
That's right. We cooking with grease.
Yeah, we are. And we can, we manage our relationship a whole lot better.
And so, guys, in closing, God,
and then another thing too. I'm sorry, because we always got to add in, if you feel like things are just that bad, professional help.
That's right.
God,
100%.
number one, prayer changes things. My wife been praying over me for a long time, and it has changed things. Right? Yeah, I love that. But then professional help too, guys. Seek out a Christian counselor that can really, really pour into you as well.
That's real, because you can't change anybody.
No.
But you can influence them to
That's
change.
right.
And that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Change yourself.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Rashid and Yvonne Taylor, for being our co-host today, guys.
Cuz.
That's
Yes,
right.
yes.
And we hope that this episode was some good information for you. And again, it didn't just apply to married couples, but also to singles, or if you're in a relationship that you're hoping to evolve into marriage. And stay tuned for next month. As Rashid talked about, we are going to talk about the 4 ways to apologize.
Ooh.
The 4 ways to apologize.
I'm working on that.
Can't wait.
Pray for me on that.
Yeah.
All
That's a daily
right,
job,
guys.
right?
That's
Lord, show me how to
you, guys.
apologize.
Yes.
So tune in next month, guys. So thank you
ya.
so much.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.